What if I told you that a grandmother's desperate attempt to protect her family would lead to her becoming the final piece of a murder conspiracy that took over a decade to fully unravel? That phone calls made from jail cells would become the smoking gun evidence that prosecutors needed to bring down an entire family? And that the very people who thought their wealth and influence made them untouchable would discover that justice, though delayed, can still find its way to your doorstep, even when you least expect it? Welcome back to Dark Trail Files, where we expose the truth behind the cases that shake our faith in humanity and challenge everything we thought we knew about family loyalty. If you missed part 1 of our Dan Markel investigation, the link is in the description below, and trust me, you absolutely need to watch it first to understand the full scope of this conspiracy that destroyed multiple lives. For those who've been following this incredible journey with us, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell right now. Because what you're about to witness is the culmination of 11 years of investigation, courtroom drama, and a family's complete downfall that will leave you speechless and questioning everything you thought you knew about justice. In part 1, we revealed how Dan Markel, a beloved Florida State University law professor and devoted father, was executed in his own driveway on July 18, 2014, in what prosecutors say was an elaborate murder-for-hire plot orchestrated by his ex-wife's wealthy and influential family. We heard from Dan's closest friends who immediately suspected the Adelsons, watched Wendy's increasingly suspicious behavior during police interrogations, and listened to devastating testimony from the hired killers Luis Rivera and Katherine Magbanua that began to expose the conspiracy that reached deep into a family that appeared respectable on the surface. But that was just the beginning of a legal saga that would ultimately destroy an entire family and expose the darkest corners of human greed and manipulation. By the time investigators had finally unraveled all the complex connections between the hired killers and the Adelson family, years had passed, but the evidence was building into an absolutely unshakable case that would stand up to the most rigorous legal scrutiny. What had started as suspicions and circumstantial evidence had transformed into a mountain of concrete proof that would eventually reach every single level of the Adelson family hierarchy, revealing a conspiracy far more extensive, calculated, and cold-blooded than anyone had initially imagined possible. The courtroom became the dramatic stage where years of painstaking investigation would finally be tested under the harsh light of legal scrutiny, where family members would be forced to confront their roles in Dan's death, and where the truth would emerge through testimony, physical evidence, and the devastating contradictions that would ultimately trap those who thought they had crafted the perfect conspiracy to eliminate their problem permanently. The transformation of this case from a local murder investigation into a complex multi-year prosecution involving multiple defendants, sophisticated financial crimes, and interstate conspiracy charges demonstrated the incredible complexity of modern criminal enterprises and the determination required to bring wealthy, influential defendants to justice when they believe their resources make them untouchable. The financial motivations behind this family's growing desperation began to emerge in stunning detail when Wendy testified about her divorce settlement and a peculiar $350,000 transaction that raised serious eyebrows among investigators who had been tracking the family's financial dealings for years. Watch carefully how someone trained in the law attempts to explain financial arrangements that seemed specifically designed to obscure rather than clarify the family's monetary dealings and their true purposes.
Oh, where his wife is taking his children.
Absolutely.
That's not all you took, is it?
Excuse me?
You two had a joint checking account at Schwab, right?
We did.
And you went into that account before you dropped the bomb, and you took out half of that account, right?
Correct.
Roughly $350,000.
Half, yes. Of our
$350,000.
I don't remember the amount, but yes.
You know that it was in the hundreds of thousands.
I really don't remember the amount, sir.
Is it that insignificant of a sum to you that you don't remember?
I'm not saying it's an insignificant sum. I'm saying I can't attest to the amount that was there.
I'm going to tone it down now. You were unhappy in the marriage, right?
That's why I got divorced, yes.
And it happens. Marriages fall apart, right?
Yes.
But you complained constantly about it, didn't you?
No, I don't think I complained.
To anyone that would listen.
No, that's not true.
You agree with me that you complained to the one person that would actually do something about it.
I don't understand what you're asking.
Your big brother, Charles Adelson, you complained to him about how bad Professor Markel was and how much you hated him and didn't want to be in a marriage with him.
I definitely talked to my brother about how unhappy I was in my marriage. If that's the question, then yes. Is that the question?
Yes, that is a question. You talked to your brother, Charles Adelson, about how bad your marriage was. Let's talk about it.
This crucial testimony revealed that the bitter custody battle wasn't just about children and relocation preferences. It was fundamentally about money, control, power, and a family's deeply ingrained belief that financial resources could solve any problem, including the permanent removal of someone they viewed as an unacceptable obstacle to their plans. The $350,000 represented more than just a divorce settlement. It was a glimpse into the Adelson family's systematic approach to using money as a powerful tool to achieve their desired outcomes regardless of legal or moral considerations. But money was just one piece of this incredibly complex puzzle that investigators were painstakingly assembling. The real breakthrough that would crack this case wide open would come when investigators discovered that this family's planning extended far beyond simple financial arrangements, reaching into sophisticated emotional manipulation, carefully coordinated alibis, and an extensive network of relationships specifically designed to insulate them from responsibility for Dan's death while maintaining plausible deniability at every level. Phil's emotionally devastating testimony provided the court with a heart-wrenching perspective on the true human cost of this conspiracy that went far beyond legal maneuvering and courtroom strategy.
His father. Judge Everett, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the impact of Donna Adelson's actions on my families and the families of so many others. While this victim impact statement is addressed to you, Your Honor, it is also intended for the Adelson family, Harvey, Charlie, Wendy, and particularly Donna. I would like them to understand and reflect on the deep and irreparable damage they have caused. The pain that they have caused my family is obvious and permanent, but they have also caused lifelong harm to their own immediate family and so many other families and children around. Donna's selfishness, cruelty, and complete disrespect for human life, along with that of her co-conspirators, have left families forever broken. Louis Rivera, his children have no father. Katherine Magbanua and Sigfredo Garcia, their children have no parents. Charlie Adelson, his son, Roman, has no father. Rob Adelson and his wife and their 2 children have lost their uncle and grandparents. Shelley and Ian, my daughter, their 3 children, my grandchildren, are left without an uncle and are separated from their cousins. Of course, their heinous and callous actions have left me, Ruth, and Shelley without our Danny, and Ben and Lincoln without their father. For anyone to commit such a cold-blooded, unprovoked act of murder is horrific. For Donna, someone who claims to care so much about Ben and Lincoln, her sunshines, her actions are beyond comprehension. She has harmed forever the people she claims to have loved. In the Jewish custom, we have an expression to always wish others to live to 120 years of age. For Donna, I wish her to live to 120, alone in her jail cell. I wish that every day of her remaining days she thinks about the harm she has caused to so many, especially those 2 boys she claims to have loved so much. For these reasons, Your Honor, I ask the court sentence Donna Adelson to the maximum possible sentence And my only short question to Donna, was it worth it? Respectfully, thank you.
Phil's testimony reminded everyone in that packed courtroom that behind all the complex legal maneuvering, sophisticated conspiracy theories, and financial transactions was a real person with real relationships, real dreams for his future, and genuine, unconditional love for his children. His words cut through all the complexity of the case to reveal the simple, heartbreaking truth. Dan Markel died because he refused to allow his children to be taken far away from him, and that principled refusal ultimately cost him everything he held dear in life. The emotional impact of Phil's testimony on the jury was immediately visible, and legal observers noted that his words provided the human context that transformed this case from a complex legal puzzle into a story about real people whose lives have been destroyed by others' selfish decisions and calculated cruelty. Perhaps the most dramatically damaging moment for the defense came when the presiding judge caught Wendy in what appeared to be a deliberate and calculated falsehood during her crucial testimony. This pivotal moment represented much more than just a caught lie in a courtroom setting. It was a revealing window into the mindset of someone who apparently believed that her intelligence, legal training, and family connections would allow her to navigate even the most challenging questions without facing real consequences for her deceptions. The judge's immediate and firm intervention demonstrated that the court would absolutely not tolerate any attempts at deception, regardless of who was providing testimony or what their social status might be. Legal experts who observed this exchange noted that it represented a turning point in the case. The moment when Wendy's credibility became seriously compromised and the jury began to see through the careful facade she had constructed to protect herself and her family from the consequences of their actions. In what became one of the most analyzed and discussed moments of the entire lengthy case, Wendy's near slip-up when she almost said hitman instead of repair guy provided prosecutors with what many legal observers considered a smoking gun moment of consciousness of guilt that was impossible to explain away. Listen very carefully to this crucial exchange and notice the immediate, almost panicked attempt at correction that followed the verbal stumble.
Because I didn't purchase the TV was a gift that my brother paid for, but my mom went and got it and he reimbursed her, so the contract would have been under her name and her number. So when the repair guy was coming, they may have called or texted them. So when the repair...
This seemingly minor verbal mistake suggested a level of knowledge about the true nature of the conspiracy that went far beyond anything Wendy had been willing to admit during her testimony or previous questioning. The fact that hitman was apparently on her mind during testimony about entirely different matters raised serious questions about what she truly knew about the planning and execution of her ex-husband's death. Linguistic experts and criminal psychologists who analyzed this moment suggested that such verbal slips often reveal subconscious knowledge that the speaker is trying to suppress, making this exchange particularly damaging to Wendy's claims of innocence and ignorance about her family's activities. But Wendy's increasingly problematic courtroom struggles were nothing compared to what would happen when investigators finally turned their full attention and resources to the family members who had apparently orchestrated this conspiracy from behind the scenes. The evidence against Charlie and Donna Adelson would prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this murder plot reached into the very heart of the family structure and involved decision-making at the highest levels. Charlie Adelson's testimony represented the first time that someone from the core Adelson family will be forced to publicly account for their role in Dan's death under oath and intense cross-examination. Watch carefully as a successful dentist with substantial financial resources attempts to explain away damaging financial transactions, suspicious relationships, and incriminating communications that prosecutors argued clearly added up to participation in a murder conspiracy.
She found out when she came to court. I never told her anything.
I'm talking about the murder of Dan Markel. She knew something, right? I mean, it's not a coincidence she went to the crime scene, is it?
You're talking about the route that she took that day?
I'm talking about her pulling up to the crime scene tape.
She never went to the crime scene. She was going to buy a bottle of liquor that Coincidentally, the person sent her a stock the bar party buy a bottle of Bullet bourbon that she was going to pick up. She wasn't driving to a crime scene. And I think she made that clear too. Nobody knew a murder was taking place.
She pulled up to the crime scene tape, Dr. Adelson.
She didn't pull up to the crime scene tape. She was driving down the street and then had to make a U-turn. It was blocked off. But she wasn't going to.
She couldn't help herself.
Nobody knew a murder was going to take place.
She exposed you all to some degree by those actions, didn't she?
No, not at all.
And then she threw you under the bus in her interview, didn't she?
Nobody knew a murder was going to take place.
She knew her husband had just been shot, and they were asking her who would want him dead, and she said your name. Are you mad about that?
No, she said a lot of people's names.
Charlie's demeanor and responses during this crucial testimony revealed someone who appeared to genuinely believe that his wealth, professional status, and family connections would somehow insulate him from the legal consequences of what prosecutors alleged was his central role in planning and financing Dan's elimination. His repeated attempts to explain away increasingly damaging evidence often seemed to create more questions and suspicions than they answered. Charlie Adelson was ultimately convicted on all charges and is now serving a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. But his testimony during the trial provided crucial insight into the family dynamics and decision-making processes that led to Dan Markel's death. His words helped prosecutors understand exactly how a family convinced itself that murder was not only an acceptable solution to their custody problem, but the most efficient and permanent way to achieve their desired outcome. The financial evidence presented during Charlie's trial revealed a pattern of payments and transactions that prosecutors argued represented compensation for the hired killers, demonstrating the cold, business-like approach this family apparently took to solving what they viewed as their Dan Markel problem. When directly confronted with serious accusations that she had actively participated in plotting her ex-husband's death, Wendy's denial provided another crucial piece of evidence for prosecutors to analyze and compare against the mountain of other evidence they had accumulated. Watch her specific response to these life-changing accusations and pay careful attention to both what she says and exactly how she chooses to say it.
No.
Did you maybe know it was going to happen but not know the details?
I did not know it was going to happen, and I did not know any details.
Did you provide any information, even unknowingly in hindsight, that you think could have been used to assist the murderers?
I don't think so. I didn't provide any information.
What information do you have regarding your mother's involvement in the plot to kill your ex-husband?
I don't have information.
But you do admit that your brother said he looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markel.
I don't. I admit that my brother made a tasteless joke repeatedly about buying me a TV because it was cheaper than hiring a hitman.
But then someone did hire a hitman who did kill Dan Markel, right?
Yes, that happened.
Was part of the plot to kill your ex for you to have plausible deniability or to know very little about it?
I was not involved in any plot to kill Danny.
Were you shielded from the plot because, I don't know, you couldn't be trusted to keep a secret?
I was not involved in any plot to kill Danny.
Why did you tell investigator Isom in your law enforcement interview that you were worried the police, or you were worried, I guess, in the police car on the way to be interviewed, that you might be considered a suspect?
Because I couldn't think of anything bad going on in his life other than the divorce. And frequently the ex-wife is a suspect.
Were you treated as a suspect?
I was not.
But you mentioned 9 times in your law enforcement interview being a suspect, didn't you?
I did, yes.
These denials would later be systematically compared against phone records, financial transactions, witness testimony, and surveillance evidence to determine whether they represented truthful statements from an innocent person or carefully calculated attempts to avoid responsibility for a conspiracy that had cost Dan his life and destroyed multiple families in the process. Legal experts noted that the specific language Wendy used in her denials was particularly significant, as trained attorneys often choose their words very carefully to avoid making statements that could later be proven false, while still maintaining plausible deniability about their true knowledge and involvement. Perhaps one of the most revealing and emotionally charged exchanges of the entire trial came when Wendy was asked directly whether she suspected her brother Charlie might have been involved in her ex-husband's death. Her response to this incredibly personal and legally significant question provided important insight into family loyalty, personal knowledge, and the extent to which she was willing to protect family members, even when faced with the most serious possible accusations.
Or did your lawyer advise you not to talk to your family about it?
In 2016.
Okay, so what about the 2 years in between? Did you talk to him about it then?
I mean, I talked to him about the fact that a murder occurred, but I guess I don't understand the question.
But you never talked to him about the suspicions you raised in the law enforcement interview that your brother might have done it?
No, I did not.
You suspected your brother could have been a part of this, right?
I suspected lots of people could have been a part of it.
But he was one of the people, right?
While I was talking with law enforcement for 6 hours, terrified out of my mind, I offered them every possible idea I could come up with.
Right, and one of the possible ideas was that your brother could have murdered your child's father.
I didn't really believe that was possible.
Was part of the plot for you to be able to have plausible deniability about this?
Absolutely not.
Is it better for both you and your brother if you don't know the details of this?
I don't even understand the question that you're asking me.
When did you first become aware that you might be a suspect in this case?
I mean, as the ex-wife, I assumed I was a suspect from the beginning.
What was your first thought when you were asked if anyone might have murdered Dan Markel for your benefit?
I thought, oh my God, maybe if I hadn't divorced him, he would still be alive. Maybe this is my fault because I complained to the wrong person. Maybe Danny gave a student a bad grade and they came after him. I just was trying to think of who possibly could have wanted to hurt him.
But you didn't say any of that before. I mean, the first thing you said was Charlie, right?
I don't think so.
Page 25 of your interview, line 5 through 15. Do you have any reason to dispute? Page 25, not 5 hours into it. You say Charlie might have done it, right?
Can I see, please?
You may. This is going to be tab 1, page 25.
What I say here is that he would never do it. Right under the highlighted part, I say no, he would never.
Need a copy?
Page 25, line 5 through 15. I mean, my brother, the one, his name is Charlie, the one I'm really close to. He makes a lot of jokes in that taste, and it was a joke he made. He bought the TV for me this morning that got broken, and then I was talking to him about whether it made sense to pay or fix it, or whether I should get a new one. And it was always like, It was always his joke that, like, he knew that Danny always treated me badly, and it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman, and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV. And you do say you don't think he would do it, but can we agree you brought up his name on page 25 of the interview?
I did.
When asked, would you ever ask someone to do something like this? You say not in a million years. When asked, okay, do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you? You say no. And when Isom starts to ask you, what good does it serve? You say, I mean my brother, the one, his name is Charlie. Isn't that how it went?
This is the transcript, but I think there's also inaccuracies in the transcription.
Oh boy. All right. Do you want the culpable parties held accountable for murdering the father of your children?
Absolutely. I'm grateful they're already in jail.
But not if it's your family.
It's not my family.
I mean, somebody hired him, right?
Not necessarily.
Somebody paid him.
I learned something this morning.
Yeah, me too. You didn't want him held accountable if it was your family members. Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
That's not what I told law enforcement.
What did you tell law enforcement?
I told them that the person who did this should be held responsible and that I had nothing to do with it.
Page 122, lines 7 through 12. If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. The investigator says, regardless of who it is, and your answer is, I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother.
But I don't think it was my family, is what I said.
Different now, isn't it?
No, it's not different. That's exactly
Different
what I
today,
said
isn't
right
it?
here. No, that's not
No
right.
further questions.
This line of questioning forced Wendy into an impossible position, creating a moment where she had to choose between family loyalty and truthful testimony under oath, creating what many legal observers considered absolutely crucial to understanding her true knowledge of the conspiracy and her role in either planning it or covering it up in the aftermath of Dan's death. The dynamics revealed by this exchange demonstrated how family loyalty can become a form of criminal conspiracy when members coordinate to protect each other from the legal consequences of their actions, regardless of the harm they have caused to innocent victims. The moment when Wendy was asked to identify her mother Donna in court created one of the most emotionally charged and dramatically tense exchanges of the entire lengthy trial. This seemingly simple procedural request carried enormous emotional and legal weight, as it forced the daughter to participate in legal proceedings that could ultimately send her mother to prison for the rest of her life.
My mom is on right. I can't see her clothes from here, but she's directly across from me.
All right, is she wearing a headset on her head?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect.
Your mom didn't want you to be stuck in Tallahassee either, did she?
She did not.
She wanted the best for you, right?
She saw the best for me as not being in Tallahassee. Yes.
That's right. She referred to being in Tallahassee that you were a hostage and a prisoner, right?
Yes, she did.
Oh no. Clickergate continues.
The tension in that packed courtroom was absolutely palpable as family bonds collided directly with legal obligations, creating a moment that humanized the devastating impact this case had on relationships that had once been sources of love, support, and mutual protection, but had become evidence in a murder conspiracy that had destroyed multiple lives. This exchange also demonstrated how criminal conspiracies tear apart the very families they are supposedly designed to protect, turning love into liability and family loyalty into evidence of criminal cooperation that could be used against defendants in court. But all of these dramatic courtroom moments, revealing testimony, and family confrontations would pale in comparison to the evidence that would finally seal the fate of the Adelson family matriarch and provide prosecutors with the clear, undeniable proof they had been seeking for years. Phone calls made from jail, automatically recorded by authorities, would provide prosecutors with the smoking gun evidence that Donna Adelson was not just a concerned mother trying to protect her family, but the calculating architect of her former son-in-law's death. The jailhouse phone calls between Donna and Charlie Adelson became the prosecution's most powerful and devastating evidence, revealing a level of coordination, shared knowledge, and mutual understanding that completely demolished any remaining claims of innocence from either defendant. Listen very carefully to these conversations, automatically recorded while Charlie was in custody awaiting trial, and notice the coded language, the shared references to past events, and the apparent ongoing coordination of their legal strategies and public statements.
An incarcerated individual at the Leon County Jail. This call is not private. It will be recorded and may be monitored. If you believe this should be a private call, please hang up and follow facility instructions to register this number as a private number. To accept charges and consent to this recorded call, press 1. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Charlie.
Hey. Hey, Dad, how are you?
How are you? Okay.
I'm all right.
Where are you? Are you still in that cell?
Yeah, I'm still in here. So the chief's going to see me at some point today, and whenever he comes through, and then supposedly Dan's going to come to the jail, and I asked them, they said when your attorneys get here, they'll take you out to see them. I'm sure I'll see them behind glass.
So I thought I didn't know that Dan I didn't know if he went home or not yesterday.
No, he's driving home today.
Okay. So they will let you see him today.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to be behind glass. I'm going to be picking up a phone, talking to him through a sheet of glass.
So, did you get sleep last night?
Yeah, on and off. I mean, they got the lights on. It's bright in here. It's like I just wanted to call and say hi. I don't even know why.
No,
that's okay.
I'm glad you said it. I was actually just talking to Dan, so it's not like we were sleeping.
Yeah.
But
you were talking to Dad or Dan?
Dan.
It's cold.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to talk when we have a moment about things that we need to take care of. Okay?
Yeah, I know the money and stuff like that. No, I got you.
Roman.
What?
I have things I need to take care of for Roman and ways that we can take care of him and help him. So there's that, which is the most important. And then and figuring out about the dog. So gotta take care of things, Charlie. We gotta take care of things.
It's like I'm dead. I mean, I hate to tell you this. It ain't a whole lot different. Oh, fuck.
No, please, I know.
Oh, fuck. I listen to everybody.
These calls represented much more than just family members trying to provide emotional support to each other during difficult legal troubles and public scrutiny. Prosecutors argued convincingly that they revealed ongoing efforts to coordinate testimony, manage potentially damaging evidence, and maintain the conspiracy that had begun with Dan Markel's death and continued through years of investigation and legal proceedings. The conversations captured on these prison recordings would become absolutely central to understanding how this family operated as a coordinated unit, making important decisions collectively and supporting each other in ways that prosecutors argued clearly crossed the line from normal family loyalty into active criminal conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Legal experts who analyzed these recordings noted that they provided unprecedented insight into how wealthy defendants attempt to coordinate their legal strategies while in custody, and how family relationships can become vehicles for continuing criminal enterprises even after arrests and indictments. Donna Adelson's arrest at Miami International Airport, dramatically captured on police body cameras, revealed a 75-year-old woman attempting to flee the country with a one-way ticket to Vietnam and no return date planned. The timing of her attempted departure, coming shortly after her son's conviction and sentencing, strongly suggested someone who clearly understood that her own legal reckoning was imminent and unavoidable.
Okay. My husband's almost 80 years old. He can't come with me?
Please, can I help? No, you can't do it. Oh, don't do this, please.
Please.
Oh,
Someone's got to help him get home. This is terrible. You can't do this. This is
the rings, take everything. You give it to your husband. Because once you arrive at county jail, they're going to make you remove all that.
Can I call my attorney?
The body cam footage shows the precise moment when years of patient investigation finally caught up with the family matriarch who prosecutors argued had been the primary driving force behind the entire conspiracy from its earliest planning stages. Her apparent attempt to flee the country represented the final acknowledgement that the walls of justice were closing in around the Adelson family, and that no amount of wealth or influence would protect them from accountability. The arrest footage also revealed the sophisticated planning that had gone into her attempted escape, including financial arrangements, travel documents, and timing that suggested this was not a spontaneous decision, but a carefully orchestrated attempt to avoid facing the consequences of her alleged crimes. Donna Adelson's court appearances throughout her trial revealed a 75-year-old woman facing the very real possibility of spending the rest of her life in prison for what prosecutors argued was her role as the mastermind behind her former son-in-law's death. The jury ultimately rejected the defense argument that she was merely a meddler, not a murderer, finding her guilty on all counts after deliberating on the extensive evidence presented during the trial.
Witness stand. Please raise your right hand as best as you can. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? Yes. You may take the seat. Please speak loudly and clearly. You may examine Mr. Zellman when you're ready. Thank you, Your Honor. Just a moment. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name for the record and make sure you speak into the microphone?
Yes, Donna Adelson.
Now, I want to direct your attention. We heard the call earlier. The call on November 7th of 2023 at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And for the record, that was call number 561. Do you remember where you worked?
Yes, I was in my apartment in my living room.
Do you remember who was present when you got the call?
Yes, my husband, Harvey, and friends of mine, my attorney, Susan Brotman, and her husband, Richard Shabrin.
You said your attorney, what kind of law does Ms. Brotman practice? Or did she?
She does estate planning.
Was Ms. Brotman present at your apartment for the purposes of providing you with legal counsel?
Yes, she was.
And do you remember receiving the call from Charlie?
Yes, of course.
And where was Charlie at the time?
So he was in a He was in a room by himself. It was after the conviction.
Was he in jail?
He was in jail.
Okay. What did you do when you saw that Charlie was calling?
Answered the phone.
And you heard the recording that we played earlier?
Yes.
And you agreed for your call with your son to be recorded, correct?
Yes.
As the call was happening, do you know at what point Charlie was no longer on the call?
No, only when because I was talking, and then all of a sudden I asked him something, and I said, "Charlie, do you hear me, Charlie?" And I said it a few times, and he didn't respond anymore, and I knew the call was over.
Now, in the course, during the time that your son was incarcerated in Leon County Jail, did that happen more than, was that a frequent occurrence?
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot, unfortunately.
Okay. And would there be times when you didn't realize at first that he was no longer on the call?
Yes.
Where in your apartment were you when this happened?
So I was in my living room.
And you heard your voice on that first call number 562, when you repeated, "Charlie, Charlie, are you there?"
Right.
Did you believe the call had ended?
Yes.
And what would, in times prior to this, what would happen after that? What would you do when that would happen?
If he didn't respond anymore, that was it. The call was over.
And what would you do with your phone?
I hang up.
Now, same thing with the call on November 8th of 2023, the one at 6:38 in the morning. Do you know at what point your son was no longer on the phone?
I don't. I don't remember the call.
In either one of those situations, or in both of those situations, did you believe the call was over?
Yeah, the call was over. He was gone.
And you went about your business?
Yes.
Now, with respect to the November 7th, 2023 phone call when your attorney, her husband, and your husband were present at your apartment, did you agree for your attorney-client conversation to be recorded?
No.
Did you agree for your conversation with your husband to be recorded?
No, of course not.
Now, the following day, did you agree for your subsequent conversation with your husband to be recorded?
No.
You heard the recording. To consent to this call, press 1. Or recording of this call, press 1. Correct?
Correct.
You hung up the phone after those calls were over.
Thought I did.
Just a moment, Your Honor. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor?
Cross-examination.
Good morning.
So there in the room with you during this call was, you said your one of your attorneys, Susan Brotman, your husband, and then also Susan Brotman's husband.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And he was not your attorney?
He was not.
Your attorney?
No, he's not an attorney.
Okay. You were informed at the beginning of that call, this is the one on November 7th that recorded you while they were all in the room. You were informed that you were being recorded if you accepted that call.
Yes.
Okay. And that if you do not want to be on that recorded call, that you needed to hang up the call. Is that right?
Are you saying, does the recording say?
Right. If you do not want to accept that recorded call, you should hang up.
If you do not, yeah, no, I accepted the recorded call.
Okay. And you typically do hang up your calls, you said, after
I think I
your
do,
calls
yeah.
with Charlie Adelson when he was in custody. All right, but this particular call that day, evidently you did not properly hang up, right?
Evidently.
Okay. And have you ever forgotten to press the button on a call before?
I mean, it may have happened. I don't know.
Sure. Has your phone pocket dialed people before?
Has it what?
Pocket dialed people before? When you've been out of custody.
Pocket dialed?
Right.
I don't know what you mean.
Like if your phone is in your pocket or in your purse and it accidentally calls someone you didn't mean it to?
I mean, that could have happened, sure.
Okay. And you also could have not pressed the button on your cell phone to end a call before, right?
It's possible.
Okay. It's not quite as big of a deal as it used to be when you would actually have to hang up the phone.
Right.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Redirect examination.
Briefly, Your Honor. The consent that you gave for the call to be recorded, when did that end?
It ended when Charlie hung up, or when whatever stopped the call. I mean, I don't know how it stopped, but it stopped. When the call was over with Charlie, it was over.
Nothing further.
You may step down.
Watching Donna in court provided a stark reminder of how this conspiracy had evolved from what might have begun as normal family frustration with a difficult custody situation into a calculated murder plot that would ultimately destroy the very family it was supposedly designed to protect and preserve. Her conviction represented the culmination of over a decade of investigation and prosecution that had consumed enormous resources and affected countless lives. The evidence presented during Donna's trial painted a picture of a woman who prosecutors argued had used her influence, resources, and family connections to orchestrate a murder conspiracy while maintaining plausible deniability about her direct involvement in the planning and execution of the crime. With Donna Adelson now convicted and facing a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole, she became the fifth person overall to be convicted in connection with Dan Markel's death. But questions still remain about whether justice has truly been completely served and whether every single person responsible for this elaborate conspiracy has been identified and held fully accountable for their actions. The Dan Markel case stands as a powerful testament to the persistence and professionalism of investigators who absolutely refused to let a respected law professor's death go unsolved, and to a justice system that ultimately proved that wealth, influence, and social connections cannot protect those who choose to solve their personal problems through violence and murder. Charles Adelson and Katherine Magbanua are both serving life sentences without parole. Luis Rivera received 19 years for his cooperation with authorities. Sigfredo Garcia was also sentenced to life in prison without parole, and now Donna Adelson joins them in facing the rest of her life behind bars. But this case represents much more than just successful prosecutions and lengthy prison sentences. It serves as a chilling reminder of how ordinary custody disputes can escalate into unthinkable violence when families believe that money and connections place them above the law and beyond the reach of consequences for their actions. Dan Markel fought his entire professional career for justice in courtrooms across the country, never imagining that his ex-wife's family would view his love for his children as nothing more than a problem that could be permanently solved through his elimination. The children at the center of this bitter custody battle have now effectively lost both parents, their father to senseless violence, and their mother to the devastating consequences of what prosecutors argued was her family's elaborate conspiracy. They serve as a heartbreaking reminder of the true cost of this tragedy. Innocent victims whose lives were forever changed by adults who chose personal convenience and selfish desires over human decency and the welfare of the children they claimed to love. The investigation into Dan Markel's death spanned over 11 years, involved multiple law enforcement agencies, required the coordination of prosecutors across different jurisdictions, and demanded the cooperation of criminals willing to testify against those who had hired them for murder. It demonstrated that even the most complex conspiracies can be unraveled through patient police work, careful analysis of evidence, and the unwavering determination of prosecutors to pursue justice regardless of how long it takes or how powerful and influential the defendants might be. As we conclude this comprehensive investigation into one of the most complex and heartbreaking murder conspiracies in recent memory, we're powerfully reminded that justice, though sometimes significantly delayed, can still be achieved when investigators refuse to give up and prosecutors are willing to follow evidence wherever it leads, regardless of social status, family connections, or financial resources. The Adelson family's fundamental belief that their wealth and influence could ultimately protect them from the consequences of their actions proved to be their fatal miscalculation and the source of their complete downfall. In the end, no amount of money could buy them immunity from a justice system that refused to let Dan Markel's death go unpunished and unavenged. Dan Markel's legacy extends far beyond this terrible tragedy that ended his life. He was a respected scholar, an inspiring teacher, a devoted father, and ultimately, an innocent victim whose death sparked a pursuit of justice that would not be deterred or denied. His story serves as both a tribute to his life and contributions, and a sobering warning about what can happen when people convince themselves that other human beings are nothing more than obstacles to be removed for their convenience. This has been part 2 of our comprehensive investigation into the Dan Markel murder conspiracy. Thank you for joining us on this difficult but important journey through one of the most complex and devastating cases in recent legal history. This is Dark Trail Files, where we never stop seeking the truth, no matter how long it takes or how powerful those who try to hide it might be.